Hi guys, it's Vix from New Age Hipster. In today's episode of Scary Tarot Cards, we've got the Ten of Swords. If you have ever seen this card in a reading for yourself, maybe even a reading for someone else, and you've flipped out a little bit, this video is for you. The Ten of Swords can look a little bit creepy, a bit scary, it's a bit dark. Let's have a chat and let's shed some light on what is really going on with the Ten of Swords and how we can read it, how we can see this card when it comes up in our readings, how we can use it for personal transformation instead of freaking out. Speaking of personal transformation, I have been working through Tarot for Yourself, which is a workbook for personal transformation. This is by Mary K. Greer, and I highly recommend it to anybody who's looking for a little, it's not really little, it's quite huge really, book on tarot and how to read tarot, how to read for yourself. I've been reading for quite a few years now, but I'm finding lots of good juicy stuff in this, so do check it out. The reason that I brought it today for this video is that I was working through the first part that goes through all of your personal cards. So, and a lot of them I know already, like I know my personality card, my soul card, all that kind of stuff. But I was quite taken aback to find out that my destiny card was in fact this. And I was like, are you freaking serious, universe? My destiny card is the Ten of Swords. I was like, thanks guys. So your destiny card is, Mary K. Greer describes it in this book as the minor arcana card indicating the fundamental impulses, desires and reactions of myself as an individual. And I'm like, okay then. Okay, Mary. We'll work with that. We'll make it work. Okay, so what's going on? What's going on with the Ten of Swords? Okay, so the first thing I want to say is that tens are about completion. So whenever you get a 10 in the tarot, the vibe is we've come to the end of a journey. Something is being completed, something is wrapping up, something is finishing. And there's lots of different ways that we react when we come to the end of something, and there's lots of different energies, and that's why we've got the four suits, right? So we've got the Ten of Cups, or the Ten of Cups, which is a very different energy to what's going on with the Ten of Swords. Ten of Cups, the Ten of Wands, like they're all different, very different kinds of energies. The Ten of Wands, for example, I should have got them out actually. Anyway, the Ten of Wands is the guy with all of the wands on his back. I just saw that in my reading this morning, from my personal reading. So in that card, we see that guy has reached the point where he's just like accumulated so much stuff, and that card is really all about like letting stuff go, right? Looking at what you've accumulated, what do you want to take with you into the next part of your path, right? And the Ten of Swords is it's a similar kind of vibe. The Ten of Swords is just like, okay, we've reached the end of this. We've reached the end of this. And for me personally, when I do see the Ten of Swords, I like to see it as the end of a karmic cycle. So it's not just like, that's it, I'm done with that now, although that can also be what the energy of this card is about. But for me, it's like the end of something bigger than just, oh, I finished uni, or oh, I left that job, or oh, I moved house. For me, the Ten of Swords pretty much always represents something bigger than that, something that's happening for you spiritually or mentally, something that's happening kind of like, up here in these kind of the higher chakra kind of stuff. It's a doozy. It's a doozy, but it can be so clearing. It can be so clearing, and it can be so powerful to look at this card that way. If you've been going through a difficult time, if something has just felt exhausting, whether it is like you know, your own stuff, you caught up in your own negativity, you know, you have way too many negative thoughts about stuff. If you have been with somebody romantically and it's just been a constant like up against each other, like the energy's like this all the time, whether you're in a job that you're just like, this isn't in alignment, and then you see the 10 of Swords, I would be cheering at that point. I would be like, awesome, it's finished. Stuff is coming to a completion. It's finished. With the 10 of Swords, there's also this feeling that you cannot resuscitate life back into this thing. This is an ending on a huge scale, right? This is not just like, oh, I'm closing the chapter of that book and I'm starting the next book. It's like there's no way you can go back. There's no way you can go backwards. So if you're looking for confirmation that you're moving forward, that things are finishing, and that you're free to move forward into a new energy, the 10 of Swords is just like, yay. So it can be really, really good to see this card. If you're in a situation where you're like, you don't actually want anything to change and you're really happy with where you are, then it can kind of almost bring in a little bit of a Tower energy. It's kind of like, this needs to change and it's going to happen. It's going to happen whether you lie down and just go, do you know what, I'm going to surrender to the universe, or whether you just keep letting those swords go in until you get the message. It's almost like the ultimate surrender, right? Like the universe just saying to you, like, you're going to have to surrender. You're going to have to just lie there, just like let it happen and let the flow happen. All of that kind of stuff. So really, it's sort of tricky, because what we like to do with these kinds of cards, and the Death card as well is quite similar in a way, is that we like to get into this energy of, we look at the 10s and we start to think of them as like new beginnings. So for me, like Death is Death is really quite similar in a lot of ways. Like the energy of these two is quite similar. Death being a major, I like to see that the major cards are like, it's major, like it's a really big deal. Like, and I usually see, this is how I see it. Everybody reads tarot differently, everybody interprets cards differently, and I interpret them differently in different moments, different spreads, different readings. They're always very different. But for me, I find that the Death card comes through when it's something sort of like, it's both physical and energetic, spiritual kind of stuff, right? So it's like leaving the job or leaving the relationship. It's really big stuff. Whereas the 10 of Swords can often represent more of like a shift and a changing in the way that you behave, a changing in the way that you live. And you know, that can also definitely be the job stuff, the relationship stuff, but there's like sort of like a little bit of a different energy coming through with the 10 of Swords that makes it feel like that is the important part of it. Like the important part of the 10 of Swords message is that you're changing the way you are, you're changing the way you think, you're changing the way you live, you're moving into a new cycle. Whereas the Death card is more just like, no, that's done. And also Death, I find like a lot of people resist when the Death card comes up. There's very often like a resistance, whereas when the 10 of Swords comes up, it's like there's no space left for resistance, because there's 10 swords in your back. There's no space to resist. You cannot resist. It's happening. And so that's just kind of like a really little, it's such a tip of the iceberg explanation of how I see this card, because I do see with tarot that what you think of this card today, a week later you're gonna have like 1,000 more ideas on the card, and then like a year later you can write a whole novel about each of these cards, you know, even more than that. There's just so much in them. But that's just a really like brief tip of the iceberg explanation, like from my point of view of what I think of the 10 of Swords. I want to show you a couple of other cards. I love this one. This is from the Connolly Tarot, and it's kind of like, this feels like the the moment after this. So the tens, I can't remember saying this. I always just, these are just really off the cuff, these videos. So sometimes they're a little bit like random where my thoughts go. But the tens, we do like to see them as the new beginning, but actually when you're in the 10 energy, you're still in the ending energy. So it's not until you start seeing the aces and the twos that you actually, oh cool, now we're really in that new energy. The tens really are like, things are coming to a completion and things are going to move ahead, but right now you're just in the completion. Right now you're in the ending of that. But I really love this image for the 10 of swords, because it just feels so like releasing, you know. It's like, oh, we're done, oh, we're moving on. It just feels like the kind of like the in-between this, and then we move into this, and then we're in the aces again, and then we're like, yay, we're moving into the aces. And I love this. This is from the new Star Child Tarot, and it's just beautiful. I love the imagery of it. I just think if you, and I did just make an unboxing video of this deck, so if you want to, it'll be around the channel somewhere if you want to check it out. But if you're somebody who really, really struggles with seeing something like that, then get a hold of a Star Child Tarot, because that is a really very beautiful, very different image, and yet there is still this feeling of, you've got the tens, you've got the circles, you've got the cycles, you've got the completion, you've got all of that kind of energy, and you've also got, like, you know, the rocky, the rocks in the background there, which also kind of suggest that kind of like, you know, maybe this isn't the easiest time for you. And usually it's not, you know, when you're having a 10 of swords moment, it's not the easiest time, but it can be very, very eye-opening, and it can be one of those times where, you know, when like you just kind of start to see things clearly, and you just get that realization of, kind of seeing it now for us as like, when you, for just an example, like, you know, when you've been in a relationship with someone and you kind of have that feeling that this isn't the right relationship anymore, but you just kind of like stay in it, right? Whether it's a long-term thing or whether it's just, you know, someone you're seeing or whatever. It's like, you know that it's not really vibing for you, you know that it's not the right relationship for you, but you just kind of stay in it, and you're like, oh, maybe it'll work out, like maybe things will get better, but you know that it's really not. And then very often when people are in that situation, this card will come up for them. And it'll just be like, it's finished. It's dead. You might be trying to revive this relationship, you might be trying to make it into something amazing, but babe, just let it go. Just let it be. You can't resuscitate a dead horse is, you know, one of the little like phrases that comes through for me with this card quite often. You can't resuscitate a dead horse, but you can get a new horse. You can put your energy into creating new stuff and a new chapter, and finding that next thing. Because once we've moved out of the tens, we're moving back into the ones, and it's like all about new growth and new opportunities and new things, manifesting, all of that kind of stuff. So what I would say to you, if you feel like you're in one of these kind of areas of your life right now, one of these points in your life right now, is number one, be kind to yourself. Don't freak out when you see this card. Don't freak out and just be like, oh my god, like I'm gonna die, or somebody is gonna die, or whatever. It's not about that. It's about completion. It's about karmic cycles being completed, and it's really quite good. It's really good when stuff gets completed, right? We can't just live in like, oh my god, could you imagine living in the 5 energy all the time? Whoa. No, thank you. So it's better to have that cycle. We live in a cycle. Everything in life is a cycle, and it's not always aces, sometimes it's tens. But if you do feel like this right now, be kind to yourself and just trust that you are going to move back into those ones and twos and all of that bright new sparkling energy. You are going to move into that. So just be where you are, be kind to yourself, and just be chill, be cool. That's it for me. If you would like to grab a reading with me that may or may not have any scary tarot cards in it, you can do that by checking out the links below. And I'm sending you loads and loads of love and light.